What's up, you guys? How are we? Happy Friday. We're not quite organized here, but all right, guys, we wanted to pop in. A lot of you that go to Orange Theory are doing the transformation challenge, and you're getting body scans, and there's a lot of stuff coming up for you. So we want to jump on and talk about that and give you guys some advice and some ways to kind of work through this. So give us hello. Hi, Kim Marie. Hi, Sue. How are you guys? Happy Friday. All right.
I think first and foremost, you guys take a breath. Take a breath.
I've been breathing wrong.
Yeah.
Breathe out, not up.
Yeah. But I think the important piece of this, you guys, is going from what the almost just looking at the label of what this challenge for you guys is a transformation challenge. And I'll be honest, a transformation challenge isn't what changes physically. A transformation is what you become internally, and that gets expressed externally. Who you become is the transformation, because losing weight, getting muscle, getting faster, getting fitter, whatever that may be, that's not a transformation. That's just another piece to who you are, right? Like, I think that's where for some of you guys, the opportunity in this is, and I'll give you guys kudos and, props for signing up, because, signing up for something first takes some courage. And just yet again, the reason why the first week we talked about getting rid of the darn scale is because it has such negative connotations and negative associations for so many of us, that being part of this transformation challenge, you probably are having to, step on those devices, or even further get an in-body scan that's going to be giving even further information based off of, your current makeup, right? That may be what you may, and one of the reasons why we're hopping on here is because we're seeing, for some of you guys, it's sending back into some old patterns and some old triggers, right? And I think first off in this, you guys, is allow yourself to take the information and sit with it for a minute, right? Like, don't get the feedback we're getting on this is kind of almost knee-jerk reaction of like the oh shit type of response, right? As opposed to, okay, let's sit with this, okay, take a breath. And I think it's understanding that we don't come from the standpoint of everything is rainbow, sunshines, and unicorns, right? Like, I'm not a participation award person, right? Like, I don't believe everyone that shows up for field day should get a blue ribbon, right? Like, I think there's benefits in all the things in what we do in life. But I also know for a fact what most of us tend to do is we see a scenario that isn't ideal and we make it worse, right? Like, we blow with this thing up here and we make it an atomic bomb, as opposed to looking at the information. What is it telling me? But more importantly, what am I interpreting in this, right? Because it's not the event that's usually the most important thing. It's my perception of the event that's going to dictate my actions from there on out, right? So I think looking at the information, you guys, just first sit with it, take a breath, acknowledge it, what's coming up for you, and at the same time, what is your perception of that information?
Well, and I think, and I'll just tell you guys a story, because I had this happen to me when I was like 21, right? So I had my eating disorders. I was going through this stuff. I had a really, really good friend who was about 20 years older than me, who was my cycling buddy. And so I was married before Brandon, so I got married when I was 22. Before my wedding, he wanted to help me, like, have some more understanding about my body composition.
Before your wedding?
Yeah, it was before my wedding. So it was a really good intention gone really wrong. So he was like, hey, I got you this like fat thing. So it was the underwater wing, blah, blah, blah. So they do it and it comes back, and I was, admitting like I was skinny fat, which is probably why I didn't like the way I looked. But I think it came back that I was like 24, 25%, whatever. I was young. I was horrified, right? And I was more horrified that my friend, who was my mentor, he and his wife both came back way leaner than me, and they were 20 years older. So, like, I was like, it did not help. It sent me way farther over the edge, right? So, and then the lady calls back and she's like, oh, I forgot to figure in your organs and all this shit. And, like, at that point, I was just like, I don't even know, like, whatever. But I know the emotional response I had. I can still feel that. Like, that was 24 years ago, and I can still feel it. So what I want you guys to do is take a breath and, like, detach from the numbers or what you think the information is to what it means about you as a person. right? It doesn't, you are not a bad person. I was not a terrible person. I was not all of a sudden obese. Like, none of those things are true, but I know the feeling, okay? So what I know to be true is, as we're trying to shift, is that we first need to come to an energetic neutral when we look at certain things, right? So we look at our body weight, when we look at our body fat, when we look at in the mirror, like, we have to come to a neutral. And I know that sounds weird, but like, before you can go to loving your body and to loving the process and to loving all of this stuff, like, you have to get out of hating it, right? And there's a middle, which is neutral. So you have to go from disliking or not being happy with where you are to just going, okay, this is where I am, and that's okay, right? It doesn't, like, you're not going to stay here, but you have to be okay. And it takes some breathing, and it takes some understanding, and it takes some disconnection from what we create the stories to mean around those things before we can go into loving, right? And so I take a breath, like, let it go, be pissed off, cry, do what, like, that's my opinion, is like, let it be what it is and feel all of the emotions, right? Because a lot of us are where we are because we choose not to feel it. We just stuff it down. We're like, oh, whatever, it is what it is. Or we do knee-jerk reactions of, now I gotta do something else. I gotta jump into diet mode. Like, let yourself be with the thing, knowing that you want to get to a place of neutral, and knowing that now you know where you are and you can decide where you want to go, right? Like, don't look back. The past is over. You can't go change that, but you can change what you do moving forward. And that's why you're here. That's why you guys invested in yourself and you're in this group. I'm glad that we've been able to hold space for you guys for 3 weeks before this happened, so that this wasn't like the onset of week 1 and there's like nothing that, like, there's no knowledge. So that's my first piece, is like, we're here. Those of you that have posted, like Brandon said, good job, and good job, like, actually saying, like, this was horrifying, or I feel terrible, or, you know, like, good job admitting that, and like being vulnerable enough to put that out there, because you're not the only one feeling it. I bet almost everyone is probably feeling that way.
Well, I think, you know, one thing that, as I've gone through my own process of learning and growing and understanding for myself, right? Like, yet again, first off, for a lot of you guys, you're 3 weeks into this process, right? Like, you're 3 weeks into this. And I think, you know, one thing that was a big learning experience for me was when we were first going through everything, and I thought, you know, I was really embodying everything, and I was really learning, and all things were all good. And I went to the grocery store. And I was coming back out from the grocery store, and this group of teenagers pulled up to like the front entry and let out their friends and stayed parking there. And it triggered me, and it lit me up, right? Like, it pissed me off. Like, it ruined my night, right? And I came home and like vented to her, and like, I couldn't believe it and everything else. And her response was, okay, well, what in you still has to be healed?
You did not.
I didn't like that response. I didn't like that response. I didn't like, to me at the time, I didn't understand that, right? Like, no, there's nothing wrong with me anymore. I'm all good. Like, these inconsiderate little jackasses were completely rude. Well, what I didn't realize was, I saw myself, because I did that as a teenager, right? Like, I thought, you know what, the world revolved around me. I pulled up, I was that inconsiderate person and everything else. And I was really mad at myself for doing that in my past. But I didn't allow myself to see, like, and for what she was trying to teach me was, if you still have thorns and you still have things that come up, there's still areas inside you that have to run their course, and you got to mend and become aware of and create a different relationship with, right? And so that's the other part of this process, you guys, is if you go through this and you see that information and it's a trigger for you, and you find yourself going back into, I got to do something about it now. I have to go slash my calories. I have to go back to not eating anything. I have to go, like, that's a trigger, and that's old patterning wanting to come up. Right? And so it's being able to see that, yet again, the 10% of this program is what you do on a nourishment basis. But I don't care if it's a transformation challenge. I don't care if it's going out to dinner with your family. I don't care if it's staying at work late. You're going to have different events in your life for the remainder of your life that are going to create different triggers and different patterns, right? And so perhaps in this, the good of the scenario is for you to be able to be identified. I'm like, wow, why am I so triggered in this? Why is this so emotionally, up charging for me, right? Okay. sit with it, acknowledge it. Okay, where is this coming from? Where in me do I get to create a better relationship with this, and understand that those numbers, okay, we can take those as good information, and that can also be a good driving force, right? Like that could be you know what? I'm tired of seeing those numbers. I know what the information that I've gotten for the last 3 weeks. I'm moving myself in the direction of making these numbers into the realm of what I want to experience, right? Instead of taking it on the side of like, well, you know what? I've been doing this thing for 3 weeks, which usually is maybe like a week and a half. And now, you know what? It's not working. And so I'm going to go back to what I know to do. Right.
So here's the thing, you guys. So we talk about triggers, and that was a funny night when Brayden did that, and he's like, it's not, and I was like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And he also didn't want to hear the word heal. Like we were there was a place, right? And I was a little bit further along on my journey, but like triggers don't go away, right? So like when triggers show up, what I want you guys to understand is like that's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for insight. It's an opportunity to learn, right? And so what I always say is like pain is where the light gets in, right? Because without that pain, like you can't see what it is, right? And for so many of us, it's like we don't want to experience pain. We don't want to do any of that because like it's scary and it sucks and it hurts and it's frustrating, right? And so allow yourself to be in that emotion. And then also, I think the other side of that is like, let this be the last time, right? Like just go, this is the last time I'm going to feel like this. I'm either never going to get on that stupid scale again, or I'm going to make sure that I'm taking consistent long-term action, right? So here's the non like woo-woo side of this is like, just be honest. How are you feeling? Are you frustrated? Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you disappointed? Do you feel like you do all of the things and nothing works? Because I've been there, right? Write that stuff down. Journal it out. Say it. Yell it. Scream it. Like when I teach anger, like anger regulation, anger is not a bad thing, you guys. It's if we direct it at somebody else, right? If you go in and you're like to your coach, like, you're terrible, whatever. But like get in the car and scream it all out. Say it. Get it out of your system, right? Let the energy move. And then go, okay, let's be honest with ourselves without judgment. Like what's happened in the last 2 years, 6 months, whatever, to get you to the point where you're not super happy with where you are, right? Look at those actions and then look at the actions that you can take moving forward and just know that like this is, I'm trying to read Phyllis's thing and talk. I should stop reading and just keep talking.
My eyes are terrible.
Like just know that this is a starting point to move forward, right? And this is a place to see and to be aware and to like look at, if you didn't watch last week on the 6 human needs, please go watch that and go watch it again and then watch it again and then watch it again and continue to do that work, right? This week, we're going to dive again deeper into habits and understanding how to shift those, right? But like, do yourself a favor and just know that it's a compounding effect moving forward, right? Carousel. I think Brandon actually needs glasses. That's a funny story, but
Yeah. I got yelled at by the DMV lady.
like 10 years ago, and he still doesn't have glasses. That's a total side note. Well, our phone is too far away today, but anyway. But like, just take a breath, right? I mean, we talked about, just being vulnerable, being honest, being open. Send us a message. Like, we're happy to voicemail back, but like, go back to the modules, go back to the meditations, go back to that stuff and go, okay, maybe not where I want to be. This is not the information I wanted. Maybe I didn't even want to know this information, but now what do I get to choose to do, right? And here's the thing about choice, you guys. You get to choose, and you can choose wrong, and choose again, and choose wrong, and choose again. You get to just keep choosing. You get to just keep shifting. Don't go into freak out mode and then think that it's going to change overnight, because it's not, right? It's not going to change overnight. You didn't get to where you are overnight. And allowing yourself to feel this, to go through it, to feel all the emotions, to create a plan, to stay in this group, to stay present, to stay doing all of those things. 8 weeks from now, you're going to be like, that was a blessing, right? This is the thing I know to be true, you guys, is that life is happening for you. It's also happening from you, right? So the energy you have, what you show up as, like, that is creating your life. And so good or bad, life is happening for, like, it's always happening for you, but it's happening from you. So what can you learn in this situation? How can you believe that to be true? Because when I look back on my life and like all of those things that I hated and went through, they got me to where I am and they got me to who I want to be. And that's happening for you as well. So lean into this, be grateful for it, like be grateful for this group, and just allow yourself to be here. The DMV is an anger trigger.
But I think in addition to that, you guys, is if you haven't allowed yourself to be an active participant in this group, and all of a sudden, like, this trigger or whatever it may be is like getting you pulled into the group, become an active participant in this group, right? I think if there's any consistency we've seen with those that have been in the group day after day after day, is what you allow into your world. And I'm talking about what you look at, what you read, what you listen to, who you surround yourself with. That's what molds and that's what creates our world, right? So if you get in here every once in a while, but your external world is surrounded by kind of the normal things that you had maybe prior to being introduced to a lot of the concepts we're talking about, you're not going to allow your new evolution to really take place because you're still in old environments, right? Like that ties into habits and everything else we're going to talk about here in this upcoming week. But allow yourself to be around, yet again, everyone in this group is in a similar place in life, is in a similar boat, in similar things that we're trying to aspire towards, right? Allow this to be, yet again, maybe another benefit of the scenario of collaborating and connecting and contributing to others in this experience. Because, yet again, the reason why we do this in a group format, you guys, is because, yet again, you get massive benefit from one-on-one. But the other people in this group, they're also going through this journey and seeing and bouncing ideas off each other, right? Like in the last 2 weeks, thank you, Jen, for putting together the partner challenge, because it allows us to have accountability, allows us to have somebody to fall back on, it allows us to have these things, right?
And connection.
More connection. Right? So it's on the sense of being able to see, okay, maybe in these circumstances, what's coming up, but what is good, right? Like, where's the opportunity to be had in this scenario? And I think at the end of the day, you guys, especially, I'm hoping by some time frame in this, you guys can release the side of stopping counting calories.
Yeah, so let's go back to Jen's question. So Jen, thank you for posting that, and we've heard that from other people, so thank you for the reminder. So the question is, the scan says this, but I'm doing this, what should I do? So I want to stop for a second and say, first and foremost, it is a machine that has a ton of variables, the amount of water, when you ate last, like there's a ton of stuff there. So none of this data, you guys, is exact.
No.
Like none of it.
No,
like,
there's a sliding scale by percentages.
Yeah, by like a lot, right? And so what I would say is stay the course of what you've been doing, right? For most of you, we're still hearing, I'm not hitting my protein. Like I've heard that from almost everybody, is I'm still not hitting my protein. So I want to take a second and say, if you're still focused on calories, please understand 2 things. Your macros make up your calories, right? Macros, protein times 4, carbs times 4, and fat times 9, that creates your calories, okay? We're less concerned about that big number, but if you're not hitting your protein and you're having, maybe it's too much fat or too many carbs or whatever it is, like you might be hitting the calories, but if you're still not hitting the ratios, and we're talking about hormones, we're going to get there, but like stay the course of what you're doing. Nothing works for at least like 30 days. I don't believe. Well, works. You're not going to know if it's working or not working until you do it for at least 30 days consistently to know if it's working. So don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I sound like I'm 90 now. Like, stay with what you're doing and focus on that and be consistent. And then you can decide to shift, to move, to go, to where to go with the numbers. But if you're not hitting the numbers, you can't decide to change them because you're not even there yet. So get there and then think about it, right? I would take that scan, I would stuff it in a closet and look at it.
Put it next to your scale that hopefully you got rid of 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Put it there next thing and hopefully you got rid of that too.
Look at it never, right?
Yeah.
Like just it's
well, I think
science.
yet again, I think there's that side of, because what we see oftentimes, you guys, is the reason why most of us start on a journey is because we're flirting with our threshold, right? We flirt with our threshold of, I'm getting so tired of this, I know something has to change. And the reason why I say we're flirting with it, because we don't really make that decision. Like, for most of us, when we finally make a decision, there's no more, right? Like, for how many of you guys have been in a relationship that it's like, you know what? I put up with the scenario for the last 2 years, and I'm just done with it. There's no more. You can't say you're sorry. You can't do anything. We're done. right? And you make a decision in that moment in time that it's no longer, right? And right now, a lot of us, we flirt with the threshold of like, you know what, I'm really sick of this thing. You know, it's not, I'm just tired of it, right? And so we start to make change, but then what we start to do is we soften the scenario, right? Like, well, maybe it's not that bad, right? Like, that's why we go back into old relationships because, you know, once upon a time, it was okay. I can deal with your annoying thing. You know what, you really don't support me, but it's not that big of a deal. And then you start to get back up by your threshold. And then sooner or later, you say, I'm done with this. And then you make the decision to move on, right? So yet again, you can use this information as good. You can use this as a sense of like, okay, I'm tired of seeing this. I can make the decision to really dive in and really commit to doing the actionable steps that is going to move me in the direction of making these things more ideal, right? And I'm not saying make it worse. We don't want to make it worse, but is using it on the sense of what's the information taking me and what's the action, what's at the end of the day, it's the actions that I take is going to move me in whatever direction I can move in, right?
But the action is not just your macros.
No.
Like that's like 10% of it, right? The action is the other pieces, the what, the why, the like the understanding of yourself. That is the action. And you might not believe that that's going to be the thing, but I promise you 99% of the physical weight you have is emotional weight. And so if you don't look at the emotional piece, yes, eat your veggies, yes to all that stuff, absolutely that makes you physically healthier. But if you're not looking at the mental and the emotional pieces, it's just going to come back. Like, you can hide from it for 8 weeks, you can do the things for 8 weeks, that's great, but it's not going to make a lasting change.
It's not going to be sustainable, it's not going to be long term. Yeah. And that's the whole basis of this. Because for us, for all of it, like, we're tired of seeing that just the consistent over, okay? Long-term change, you have to change. In order for things to get better, you got to get better. For you to grow, you got to grow.
So take a breath. Again, if you want to reach out to us directly via Messenger, please do. We'll answer you in a voice note because typing just really doesn't. It just doesn't really answer the question. So reach out. We're here for you. If you do have specific question about the numbers and you just need to feel like safe and reassured that you're on the right path, we've got you. You're good. Thank you for being here. Don't let yourself get spun in this for the next couple of days because it's just not worth it. So
one more thing. I know for a lot of the scans, they have their own specific like BMR, metabolic rate, calorie calculation, everything else. Yet again, you guys, there's no exact precise number. Okay, so don't take that and then don't take the number that you've been going off of and then all of a sudden throw it by the wind, okay? Mm-hmm. Use the data. Like Courtney said, if you haven't been consistent with what we've been doing for the last 3 weeks, don't throw a curveball in the scenario of like, well, this thing says that, so I need to change this. Mm-hmm. Trust me, for a lot of you guys and the feedback we're getting, well, this number that we've had through the group is lower than the number they're telling me to do. But I'm not even hitting the number that you're telling me to get, and it's a lower number. Start with that first.
We're going to go back, you guys. Yes. We said this on Wednesday, but like the goal is to eat as much food as possible and still have the desired outcome that you want.
Yes.
So if it's lower right now, then maybe it says it's going to be great. You got to get to that number first, right? Like you can't get to 1,000 if you haven't hit 100 yet. So take a breath. You got this. We're here for you. Go watch the videos. Go do the meditations. The next one will be out on Sunday, and reach out if you need us because we're totally here for you.
Thank you all.
And we love you.